Yes. So today's topic, it is not the years in your life that count. It is the life in your years. As we age and get into retirement, which is the majority of our audience, we enter another phase of our life. Changes in our routines begin to creep in. We get busy with newer activities. And statistics show that many retirees have no plan in place. The topic today is exactly on that subject: how to have a meaningful and a fulfilled life. And this does not just apply to seniors, it applies to everybody at any stage of life. So today we have another veteran of the community with us who has served us for countless years. And Dr. Walji continues to do so. He is no stranger to us, since he has held all the top positions at the World Federation, including the presidency. Dr. Hasnain Walji is an educator, a speaker, a historian, a filmmaker, and an author. He has authored 26 books. He produced the groundbreaking documentary, The Khojas, A Journey of Faith, and I'm sure most of you will have seen that. He's also a founding director of the Mullah Asghar Memorial Library and Resource Center here in Toronto, fondly known as MARC. He travels the world lecturing in English, Urdu, and Gujarati, and I thought I might even see Swahili, but not yet. Maybe he's working on that. Dr. Walji serves on many boards, including UMAA, UMAA, Universal Muslim Association of America, a prestigious organization here in North America, which is doing some amazing work. And Dr. Walji is actively involved in interfaith dialogues and has a deep interest in tackling social injustices that confront our civil society. Dr. Walji's bio is long, but since he is known to most of us, I have kept it brief. His passion is to make this world a better place for humanity and his 7 grandchildren. Dr. Walji, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Najmul. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Najmul and the Baraza Group for the opportunity to share a few stray thoughts with this esteemed audience today. And as the moderator said, that this is about how can we possibly put more life into our years at any age. It doesn't have to be at any specific age. Because as the saying goes, that it's not the years in your life that count, which is a title. It is a life in your years. Something worth pondering about. Apparently, it's Abraham Lincoln who has been credited with that quote. I have my doubts, because it's not very clear actually who wrote it when I tried to dig into it. That said, I think this sentiment is one that may have expressed over the years for one very specific reason, that it's true. It's just simply true. It matters not how long we live, but how. You know, life is all about experiences you go through as you live your life. Imagine you're telling your grandchildren about your superb thriller experience back in the old days, like my maternal grandfather did, about how lions actually came into the backyard in his house in Moshi, for example. Or about some of our elders telling me as to how they navigated the crocodile-infested waters of these rivers from the island of Lamu, and so on and so forth. They were actually living that particular experiences, and they made me live that experience, which I can never forget. So, but the point is that while telling that, you will actually live those moments, right? And that's what this quote says, that in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, but it's the life in your years. So first and foremost, we live in deeds, not in years. We live in thoughts, not in figures on a dial or on a calendar. And therefore, we should count time by heart throbs and not by heartbeats. Because at the end of life, what really matters is not what we brought, but what we built, not what we got, but what we shared, not our competence, but our character, not our success, but our significance. So life is to live one that matters, to really live a life of compassion, a life of love. So now I need to vent a little bit. Putting life in your ears in 40 minutes that Nazmul has granted me is a mission to fail. So all I can do today is invite you to unlock the potentials and open some windows. Yes, windows. Now, Windows got Bill Gates a fortune. I'm not talking about those windows. I'm talking about different windows. And if I can open just one window today, I believe that I will have succeeded. So here, please reflect with me. This is not a one-way presentation, although Zoom does not allow us the energy of being together in a room. But if you look in the mirror, you see your face. But if you look into your mind, what do you see? I think that what you see or sense is a windowless room in which something like a monologue or something like a dialogue takes place. I think you see a room and that you hear your own voice sometimes asserting, for example, for the want of something better, I want a samosa. And sometimes debating, but is a fried samosa not as good as one that is baked? So there's constant conversation going in my mind about things and choices that I'm making. But overall, the mind is typically a stuffy place. It's a familiar place and sometimes a troubling place too. It's pleasant enough because it has been my mind since I was born. It's pleasant enough because of its familiarity, but troubling because of what one sometimes experiences in the mind. And this is where you believe, but you also doubt. This is where you pine. This is where you are grateful, but you also announce yourself internally that nothing is going right. So this stuffy, familiar, troubling place is where you dwell in every private moment of yours. And sometimes it can get very musty. It's a place of secrets, secrets that we keep from others, and even secrets that we don't want to accept that we keep from our own selves. This is human psychology. It's here in this stuffy room that we whisper, that we fantasize, and that we sometimes get even. This room is occupied in the strangest way by obvious thoughts like this job is too hard, or like the insults never forgotten, or the fact of our mortality and the aging that we are going through. The subject today. I suspect that every mind would benefit from becoming less windowless. Don't you think that just adding windows would help clear the air in this stuffy room? Perhaps it would help things called depression, anxiety, negative thoughts. What if you install just two windows, threw them open, and let a cross breeze in? Imagine the freshness. Wouldn't some regrets waft away? Wouldn't some stale conversations dissolve and disappear? I'm not talking in terms of idealism. I'm talking about a reality that we as human beings have the capacity to be able to do this. Wouldn't you find a little peace without having to travel to the beach if you were to open this window and let the air waft in? Wouldn't everything change just the way that life changes when a cloud passes and you then see the sun again? Wouldn't a balmy breeze make you feel altogether better? I'm trying to create in our minds a picture and a mindfulness that we can do this. And hopefully today, inshallah, I am able to install a small window in our minds. And if I can deliver this effectively, then I will have succeeded in my mission. So let us not get stuck in the myth about aging, and let us free ourselves, open that window, and let us free ourselves in our minds from this narrative that society seems to heap upon us, those of us who are in their golden years. You know, some people mistakenly believe that aging inevitably means getting sick or disabled, while others may think that all adults face memory loss in their later years. Even more people may think that once you reach a certain age, there is less you can contribute to society and that you're done with learning. I'm sure that the present audience here is far from that way of thinking, and that we are positive thinkers who believe that all these are myths. These beliefs are absolutely false. And in fact, many people find that the years following retirement are filled with vitality and meaning. And since most on our Baraza group, and I thoroughly miss having not come to Toronto for a while and not had those mandazes and the kukupaka. But this Baraza group would feel, except of course for our evergreen moderator Nazmul, that we are all going through these golden years, and eventually I'd like to offer a few trips to consider that may help us to make this stage of life some of the best years that we will ever have. If you go back, and I'm talking about those who may have just retired or would have retired a few years ago, that at first we thought that retirement was an exciting proposition. No more early morning wake-up calls, long delays plowing through a stressful workload. We've all dreamt of having that free time to do as we wish. But you know, soon, that sweet dream can sour quickly. All that free time can turn into long, unproductive days, weeks, and years that can be rife with boredom and uncertainty. It does not have to be that way. You are in control. We are in control. All we need to do is change the mindset and change to open another window. Now, allow me to share an awesome tool. I'm not saying that we have a brain transplant, but merely to reshape our perspective by asking and then answering a few questions. Can you go back to the time and imagine this? Please reflect with me. If you go back to time when your body and mind was stretched to its limit in an effort to accomplish something that was difficult and worthwhile, you were so engrossed in doing this. Maybe when you're writing that chapter of the book, or maybe when we're looking at something that you were bent on doing, or repairing something that had broken, whatever it was, whatever was your passion at that time, that your mind and body was totally stretched to the limit and everything else paled into the horizon and what you were doing at that point in time, that you were totally present in that time. And also not because you had to do it, but because you wanted to do it. A time when you're doing something you love and that you're good at, with the possible added benefit of bringing value to others' lives, and you'd actually get rewarded for it, is indeed a blessed place to be. And there is a way of getting there every day. It doesn't have to be one moment. Now, I want you to imagine 4 circles, and if technology will work with me, I will share those 4 circles with you in a moment. There we go. Look at these 4 circles. The first circle is what you love doing. What we do in that first circle is to experience that brings us the most joy in life and makes us feel most alive and fulfilled. That's what we love doing. It might be sailing, writing poetry, playing golf, rock climbing, cooking, reading historical novels, spending leisure time with friends or grandkids, or taking the grandkids fishing, and of course, attending the baraza. What is important is that we allow ourselves to think deeply about what we love without any concern whether we are good at it or not, whether the world needs it or not, or if we can get rewarded for doing it. It must be on what you love doing most that invigorates you. Think about that. And let us answer this question ourselves. In order to get there, what aspects of your life bring you into your heart and make you come alive? And then the second um, circle there is what you are good at or what you are great at. This sphere, which is in green, includes anything you are particularly good at, such as the skills you have learned, the hobbies you have pursued, the talents that you have shown at an early age, etc. And we can go through the list. What you might be good at might be playing tennis, making mandazi. In my case, I'm really good at eating those mandazis. But being empathetic, public speaking, sports, brain surgery, painting poetry, portraits, whatever it is, this particular sphere encompasses the talents and the capabilities as to what you're good at, whether or not you are passionate about them or not, whether the world needs them or not, or whether you can get rewarded for it or not. Again, here the question to ask for us would be, what unique skills do I have that come most naturally to me? What talents have I cultivated? And what do I excel at, even when I'm not even trying? And that is what one calls what are you good at in that particular circle. The next circle is what the world needs. You know, the world here might be humanity as a whole, a small community you're in touch with, or anything in between. What the world needs might be based on your impressions or needs expressed by others. The world needs might include caregiving, clean water, home heating, volunteer just to give solace to somebody, Quran teaching, taking someone to a hospital, whatever it may be. This domain connects most explicitly with other people and doing good for them beyond one's own needs. And it gives us as to what causes do we believe in. What breaks your heart or pulls at your gut when you see it? When you see something famine in Ethiopia on television, what pulls your gut? When you look at Yemen, when you look at Palestine, what is it that pulls your gut? What changes would you most love to create in this world? What would you give your life for? And then the last circle here is, are you paid or rewarded for it? This dimension of the diagram also refers to the world or society at large in what involves what someone else is willing to pay you for, reward you for. In marketing terms, it may mean what will the market bear? You might be passionate about writing poetry or very good at rock climbing, but does this necessarily mean that you'll get paid for it or that you'll get rewarded for it? So what do people value and would reward you for it? What service, value, or offering is going to be there where you can feel that you are rewarded? And this is something people need and are happy to pay or reward or share some value in exchange for that. So now, and please bear with me because this is the theory, that at the intersection of what you love And at the intersection of what you love and what you're good at is considered as your passion. And then at the intersection of what you love and what the world needs becomes your mission. And then thirdly, at the intersection of what the world needs and what you can get paid for is your vocation. And finally, at the intersection of what you're good at and what you can get paid for is indeed your particular vocation. So this is, where we are at. So having shared those slides, if we can hit the sweet spot, which involves something in which something you are passionate about, as I said earlier, that you're also good at, and that the world needs it, and for which someone may either reward you or pay for you, is what is called Ikigai. And this is a Japanese philosophy or a way of living. And if you look at certain areas like Okinawa in Japan, there are more people who are more than 100 years old than any other part of the world. So there must be some proof, there must be some reason as to why, and these are the people who actually practice the science and the art of what we call Ikigai. Now, Ikigai, it's not Ikigai, it's Ikigai, is a Japanese term. And some of you, may have read about it, some of you know about it, so if it's a repetition, I beg your forgiveness, but this is presenting something from my perspective as to what I learned. So Iki means being alive or life, and Gai actually means a benefit or a worth. You can Google it, I will not go deeper into it, but this is a philosophy where if you can find your sweet spot, where all the four diagrams converge as we saw in that, then you have found your ikigai, your passion, your vocation, your mission to get up in the morning and do something about it. So when you hear yourself saying, I'm passionate about this, it makes me happy, and this would allow me to do good to others as well, then you may well have found your own ikigai. Here is my ikigai, and that's what I would like to share with you today. The first circle was what I love doing, and that was to make a difference in the world. The second circle, what am I good at? I feel that I love as a communicator that I feel I'm good at written or spoken word. The third circle, what does the world need? I can tell you the world does not need advice. The world does not need consultants. What the world needs are people who will put in their time, volunteers to make a difference. That's what I feel the world needs. That's what I felt I am needed in the world. And the fourth is, am I paid or rewarded for it? And this, to me, was not a matter of being paid through money, through dollars and cents, but being rewarded and paid through the impact. 45 years of community service has given me many reasons in terms of that reward. Very briefly, I want to share just a couple of quick examples. I visit a place, Mohsin Dharamsi is here, he will bear me out. I went to a place called Palitana years and years ago when we were launching the Zainabia Child Sponsorship Scheme. We go to this house and we were trying to persuade the father to send his son to school. And the father said, I cannot do it. And we said, why not? He said, what I bring pays for the rent. What my son brings, the 3 rupees a day, pays for food on the table. If I were to send him to school, who is going to pay me the three rupees? And we finally negotiated to say, we will reimburse you for your loss of income. He sends his son to school. Long story short, 30 years later, I visit the same place, Awalkunda, Palitan. And I meet an old man, and he said, you remember me? And I said, no. He said, I was the one that when you visited Palitana years ago, we talked and I sent my son to school and so on and so forth. And I said, yes, I vaguely remember. And he said, now I have a question for you. I need your help. I don't need your help with money. I need your advice. Where can I send my grandson to college? What college is good for him? Momini, that was one of the most rewarding moments for me. That a father who would not send his child to school was now worried about his grandson going to college. That is the difference that community service makes. And to me, it was my ikigai to say that there was a difference that we made. There are many examples. I'm short of time, I don't want to go into it, but if you go to the village of Avalkunda as to where we made the changes, a girl who was rolling bidis 7 days a week for 8 hours a day in this village of Avalkunda. I visit the place 20 years later, and this young girl comes and says, I am the girl who was sitting rolling those bidis that you may have met years ago. I would like to go to college. Can you persuade my father to allow me to go to college so I can have a qualification in teaching so I can come back and teach in the school that we have here? I mean, these are the fun parts and the rewarding parts. So I have come to realize that volunteering gives me a reason to get out of bed, and that is my ikigai, meaning to be alive and meaning benefit, and that encompasses the essence of what I want to share today. There's a growing body of research that has pointed to the social, emotional, and even physical health benefits of this magic ingredient called volunteering. What is more, it's a win-win. Both the giver and the recipient benefit from this. Do you think volunteering is just a nice thing to do for others? Think again. There is a growing body of research that has pointed to the social, emotional, and even physical health benefits of volunteering. A recent study published in the journal Gerontologist zeroes in on the particular benefits of volunteering offered to older adults. It says that volunteering is one of the best ways to give your life meaning. Remember the Iki and purpose, the guy. As you help others, you can feel a greater attitude, a greater gratitude for the things that you have, and a greater connection to the people around you. Researchers have found that adults over 50 who volunteer at least 100 hours a day, a mere 2 hours a week, enjoyed a variety of mental health benefits, like higher levels of optimism, a sense of meaning in their lives, in addition to feeling physically better. According to another study, 67% of retirees who reported that they often sensed a lack of companionship before volunteering, that they experience an increase in the meaningful social connections after beginning in a volunteer role. We are fortunate in our community that we have so many opportunities, and Alhamdulillah, we have so many volunteers who come forward to do this. The benefit is twofold. What would our community be without its volunteers? The same study found that 70% of the participants who were prone to depression experienced fewer symptoms of their condition just 1 year after beginning to volunteer. So think about this, that while these volunteer activities may be performed with the core intention of helping others, there is also a common wisdom that those who give of themselves also receive. And there is much to be said on this, and I invite you to read up the research and look at the scope and the value of volunteering. You know, researchers have attempted to measure these benefits the volunteers receive, including the positive feeling, what they call the helper's high, and the increased trust in others, the increased social participation, and the emotional gratitude that one receives. Now, I say this to my peers and also to those younger, that don't wait to enter your golden years before you volunteer. You don't know what opportunity you will get. Many a times we feel that after I've done with my career, with my family, built my big house, got my latest car and so on and so forth, done everything, have gone up to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now I can volunteer. Moving from a religious perspective, let me share this. Just as there is homes of 20% on our savings, and just as there is zakat on our wealth, we also have this khums and zakat of our time. We need to continue to give it at all times in our lives, not wait until retirement, say, now I'm done with my own things, I'm going to go ahead and now volunteer. Throughout of your life, you have developed social, professional skills that promote your personal achievement. Now is the time to use those skills for a wider communal impact. It can be so fulfilling, and volunteering will enrich your life and give you a broader purpose. In fact, here in the US, while retirees make up only 31% of the adult US population, um, retirees account for 45% of the total hours volunteered, according to a Merrill Lynch study. This practice of volunteering, and our community knows this more than most because of the phenomenal volunteers we have worldwide, that this practice improves the global economy by an estimated 400 billion, yes, $400 billion each year. In the US alone, in 2010, volunteers provided services worth 161 billion. By helping to reduce government spending, increase economic output, your role as a volunteer can make a significant impact on the economy of your community, of our community, and our nations. So, coming to the end of my time very shortly. So, as to how and what to volunteer, there are so many opportunities, and I'm sure that it is not beyond the wits of this learned audience to go and find opportunities and know of opportunities. But let me share a simple formula that's worked for me. One way to better define how and where you want to spend your time is to ask yourself. Because when you volunteer, and when you're going to spend the most valuable commodity that you have, which is getting rarer and rarer as we go through our golden years, is that you want to invest your time in the best thing that you can. As to where you want to spend your time is to ask yourself, what disturbs you, as I asked earlier? Remember that mission in Ikigai? What stresses you out and causes you to think that I need to do something about this? Be sure to find a cause or an organization that aligns to your answers, and you will see that you will feel much more fulfilled. Besides, who has the time to think? This is another advantage. Who has the time then to think about negative thoughts about yourself? And now that you open that window of your mind to let the fresh air in, to say, when I am trying to make somebody else's life better, then I am trying to make a difference. So the bottom line here is to open more and more windows. And one large window is to keep learning. Find something that interests you and devote your time to learning all about it. This is part and parcel of that putting life back into years, learning a new skill and improving. Al-Biruni was an astronomer, a mathematician, a philosopher studying physics and natural sciences too. And he was, in fact, the first to be able to obtain a simple formula for measuring the Earth's radius. This was Al-Biruni. On his deathbed, he asked a question to another scholar who was sitting with him about an equation on the rights of the grandmother in the study of inheritance. How do you calculate the rights of a grandmother in inheritance? And people around him asked Al-Biruni to say, is this the time? You're on your deathbed. Is this the time to ask this question? And Al-Biruni said something which is worth remembering at any age, but particularly in our golden years. Is it better? Al-Biruni said, if I leave this world knowing this matter or say farewell without knowing it. Indeed, these scholars taught us that the more we know, the more we realize how much is there that we do not know. Martin Luther King Jr. said that everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics in physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. So at the end of our lives, we won't be thinking of things like deadlines or phone calls to clients that we meant to make. We'll be thinking of the people that we have loved and the experiences that we have had. Make sure that we are including some of these real life experiences in our ears. Sometimes there appears to exist a greater desire to live long than live well. Measured by a man's desire, he cannot live long enough. Please stay with me on this last quote. Measured by a man's desire, he cannot live long enough. Measured by his good deeds, and he has not lived long enough. Measured by his evil deeds, that he has lived too long. So we live in deeds, as I began, not years, in thoughts, not figures on a dial, and we should count time by heart throbs and not by heartbeats. I will stop here 1 minute before my time because I would like to partake of only what I'm given as a guest and not take any more. So I will stop here and inshallah invite questions. Thank you so very much for listening to me with this some stray thoughts this Sunday morning and sacrificing your beautiful Toronto afternoon leisure to actually be here, stuck in a room watching Zoom. So thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hassan Bhai, that was excellent. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful Toronto afternoon here, but we have an international audience. You know that, right?
Of course, of course.
That's okay. That's okay. Right. It's question time. But before we get into our questions, just a quick word about next week's presentation, the program. We will have a guest to talk about long-term care in Canada or Ontario specifically, and this is the nursing homes. So it will be of interest to people in Ontario, in Canada, but also internationally or in other countries where you want to be aware of, what can be set up and what one should keep in mind if you are thinking of setting one up for our community members. Okay. The first question I will ask Hasnain Kaku. He wants to ask a question. And again, if I can ask everybody, please to be brief with your questions, because as I said earlier, time is short. Hassan Bhai, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Thank you, Najmul. Assalamu alaikum, Hasnain Bhai. Hasnain Kaku from Los Angeles. Great topic. It was absolutely interesting to me. First of all, I'd like to see if we can get those slides about Ikigai. Very informative. And number two, whatever you were talking about is what the reason was that I actually joined the Koja Heritage Tour last year just before the shutdown. So thank you and appreciate that. Back to you, sir.
Hassan Bhai, will we be able to share your slides?
Yes, absolutely. But these are available all over the internet. I invite everybody to really learn more about Ikigai. I've been looking at it for the last couple of years, and it truly helped me open those windows in my mind. And now that it's question time, as a speaker, I also have a right to ask questions, right, Mr. Moderator?
It's a two-way street.
Sure. So let me ask a question to this audience here. That what was the best volunteering opportunity that you experienced that can be your Ikigai? If anybody wants to volunteer that, it would be great so we can share this. If not, please take this question home. What was the best volunteering opportunity that you have experienced that can actually become your Ikigai?
Do we have anyone? I'm sure we have lots of volunteer. I know a few in the meeting. Mohammed Baitakim, do you want to share your thoughts? If you can unmute and just share a couple of points. Banubai Walji, she has been volunteer. I know so many others, but I really shouldn't be, calling out names because Razak Damani is another. I'm only calling out the names I know. I'm so sorry, or recognize. Mujtaba Baidatu, I presume. HM in Dar es Salaam. Oh, I know plenty of Shokat Molu. Yeah, it's not right to Bashir Datu as well. Anybody want to volunteer or just add in your 2 cents worth?
My name is Raza Amir, and I'm from New Jersey, a friend of Hasnain Bhai's. But I wanted to say that I have been volunteering with special needs children, autistic children, and they are very, one thing very good about volunteering, especially if you put yourself in a slightly unfamiliar set of surroundings, is that many of your, preconceived notions get challenged and you learn a lot. So I learned that people with special needs, especially autistic children, especially during the stage of adolescence, they're very smart and they're very bright. And I think that what I came away with was that it's not really their problem that they don't fit into our world, but it's our problem that we don't know how to accommodate them. So that was very personally enriching. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajabai. Good to see you after a while. Thank you.
Excellent. Shabnam D, if it's the same Shabnam, I know you've been doing a lot of volunteering. Many in the community are doing that in their own ways. And it all makes a difference, as you say, to the community and also personally as well. So apart from volunteering, any other thoughts following your passion, your dreams, to live a fulfilled life, living a legacy, making a difference in the world through volunteerism in one way, but maybe some other ways as well. Hassan, by any other thoughts on that, please?
I have one if you care to let me in.
Yes, I will. Be brief, please, as I tell everybody.
Absolutely. When you talk about Hasnain, greetings to you. When you talk about volunteering, I think what hinges is knowing the self-worth and living a life of purpose, and that's finding the meaning to it. That's how it is, really. It's just knowing the self-worth and going beyond the self.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I think Abdulaziz makes a very good point. One thing I would like to venture to add here, there are two terms that sometimes get confused. There is this term called self-esteem, and then we're looking at self-worth. There's a slight difference, and you said rightly, it is self-worth, because that's something within you. That's something that you have been created with, your self-worth. And I've talked about this, the idea of, how a human being has been created in the best of forms in the Holy Quran, that you have been created in the best of modes. But the difference between self-worth and self-esteem is external. You do great in business, you're a successful professional, you get great grades in college, whatever, and people think well of you, and you think well of yourself. That is self-esteem. If people start thinking badly of you, negatively of you, you're not successful, or you become unsuccessful after having been successful, that self-esteem drops because you feel that people do not think as well of you as they used to. Self-worth is something different. Self-worth is your real you. You are created with that self-worth, and you realize who you really are. It's not going to go up or down with what other people think about you. It's what you are inside. And that truly is, if you have your mission and your vocation and your profession, and your passion all aligned in one way, you truly are able to realize your self-worth as a human being, to say that I have been created in the best of molds, and Ya Allah, make me and rise to that potential that I have. That is your self-worth. And volunteering, being of service to others, is a great way of creating and enhancing that self-worth within oneself.
Well said. Well said. There's a comment from HM in Dar es Salaam. Volunteer as a scout leader and learned so much from teaching to learning myself, and now see them grow up and being active members in the community and as a volunteer. Right. I think that's excellent. I mean, this is similar to the example you gave, the family in India, where the grandfather changed his views and now he's thinking of the education of the grandchildren. Excellent.
Talking about the Indian experience, and Mohsin Dharams is here. He has been, we worked together for many, many years. And volunteering also provides you with fun opportunities. You meet different people. I remember, and Mohsin may do too, that we were in a small village in Gujarat. And the gentlemen, the leaders of the community, came to see us. And we were also accompanied by a local leader. And he said, and I can only say this in Gujarati, so those who don't, please forgive me. But one can only deliver this well in Gujarati, to say, "Ke Sahib, humne kabristan mein diwal bandhi che, we'd like to have a wall, a compound wall in the kabristan." And so we said, "Okay, how much money would you need and kitla paisa joise?" And he said, "Humne 600-700 rupiah joise." The leader who was with us, accompanying us and taking us round, he says in his colloquial Gujarati, "Ke Sahib, हमने पूछो कि कितना भागी गया कि तुमने कब्रिस्तान में दीवार बांध दी है." I could recount examples upon examples upon examples as to how our culture, the Gujarati culture, actually operates. And it was something wonderful to actually know, as Hasnain alluded to. We had many fun moments. And volunteering is not just about seriousness. It's about living a life which is also fun. And I think I needed to express it maybe better, to say that it's something that you enjoy doing. It's something that gives you happiness. And volunteering can also be fun.
Fantastic. I'll just read out a comment before I give it to Sadiq. Yeah. Here's a comment. Volunteering at work, or at work and also in the community, as a fitness champion, a pedometer challenge, and brought in various speakers to motivate the staff and the community members. And a small group of 14 has now grown to over 200 people, bringing great satisfaction to everybody. This has also changed the lifestyle of the staff and the community members. So all you need is, to plant a seed and get it going, and there you go.
Indeed.
Multiple benefits.
Yes.
Multiple benefits.
Yes.
Sadiq, sorry.
Volunteering is truly contagious. You start something and you have no idea how far it reaches.
Excellent. Excellent. Sadiq?
Assalamu alaikum. Hasnain, excellent presentation. I learned a lot, as usual, from you. I wanted to share a thing. I was volunteering at the Islamic Center of Southern California, and I have been for a long, long time. But some 30 years ago, I was heading the administration, mundane stuff. But a young man, and we were hiring somebody, and a guy came in, a young man, purple hair, very hip. And he applied for a job. And when I interviewed him, I found something very interesting about him, something in him that he was very aware young man. He must have been about 18 or 19 at that time. A boy raised by a single mom, scalping tickets to make a living. And I want to hire him, but then I needed to go back to people and say, hey, this is the guy I'm going to hire. And they said, are you crazy? You can't hire somebody here with purple hair. I said, okay, is purple hair your only problem? I'll tell him to color it black. And I did. And I asked him and he did. Lo and behold, this young man became one of our most active volunteers, to the point that he became chairman of the board later in his life. He's still active and has become chairman of the board many, many times over. The thing that it taught me was two things. Number one, don't judge, expand your tent, accommodate, and you will make a difference in people's lives.
Well said, Sadiq, as always.
Any other questions? There's a comment from HM in Dar es Salaam, I guess. Ikigai, just looked it up on Google. A reason for being. It's a Japanese concept referring to having a direction or purpose in life, providing a sense of fulfillment, and towards which the person may take actions, giving them satisfaction and a sense of meaning. So that's exactly what Hasnain was talking about. Excellent. Yes, yes. Hasnain, do you want to add anything?
No, if I may, I wanted to, unless there are other questions, I just wanted to conclude with a slide that I have, which is like 10 rules of Ikigai. It may be an opportune time to perhaps look at this. And so I'm trying again to see if technology will work with me with this particular last slide that I have. Can we see the slide?
Yep.
Okay, so we're looking at, and I came across again this slide, and I invite you to really study this, because people in Okinawa must have got something right. And this is a Western perception of how the Japanese think about Ikigai. It may not be the only one. And it's something that when you translate something from one culture to another, things get lost in translation. You need to dig deeper into this principle of happiness within a group. But here are the 10 rules that I came across on the internet, which I found useful. So, you begin to say, stay active, don't retire. Do things of value, make progress, help out. And then it says, take it slow. We are always seem to be in a hurry, especially in this culture of ours, where everything is so much in a hurry, in the rat race, that we tend to be that even when we retire, we don't know how to slow down. So being in a hurry is inversely proportional to the quality of life. How many times have we taken a deep breath and just paused for a minute and enjoyed that flower that we are looking at, rather than hurriedly looking at it and moving on to the next thing? That's called mindfulness. And there's a whole subject of mindfulness. Walk slowly and you'll go far, it says. Don't fill your stomach. As a nutritionist, I totally endorse it. Our hadith tells us so too. 80% rule, that eat little or eat little less than you're really hungry. It's common wisdom. Surround yourself with good friends. Alhamdulillah, we are. Friends are the best medicine for the living. This is another rule of Ikigai. Get in shape. We talked about the idea, and we know that exercise releases those hormones that make us feel happy. Smile. We are told even a smile is a charity by the Blessed Prophet. Never fold. Never forget what a privilege it is to be here. It's also part of that gratefulness. When I smile to say I am happy to be here. Reconnect with nature. I know a while ago the Baraja group had another session which was reconnecting with nature. that we need to return to nature to recharge our batteries and give thanks. The attitude of gratitude, again, a subject on its own, that be thankful and watch your happiness grow. And then the idea of mindfulness again, live in the moment. Stop regretting the past and fearing the future. Today is all you have. And then follow your Ikigai, because there is a passion inside each one of us, a unique talent that gives us that meaning. Let us discover that and then live it. And this is how we'll be able to put more life into whatever years that we have left. May Allah give us tawfiq to actually be that, be of use to the rest of humanity, so that in the hereafter we are able to tell our Maker, we're able to tell Allah that, Ya Allah, I tried, I did the best that I could, and that would be my salvation. Thank you very much for listening to me, sharing your time with us today, and with that, back to the moderator.
And the moderator will ask you one final question, if
Yes,
you
sir.
don't mind. I know it's 3 o'clock and I know you're rushing, but very, very quickly, there's a comment which just came in, and he's talking about, looking after elderly, our parents. It is our duty and it has to be instilled. Now, as I just said, it's a duty, or is it volunteering, right? So that is question number one. And number two is, can you overdo volunteering, right? Can you do everything at the expense of everything other than volunteering?
Okay, so there are two parts, or there are two separate questions. There are
Yes.
two separate questions. The first question is, of course, looking after our own parents, the elders in our own families, and elders in our community is part and parcel of our Islamic duty without question. And, one could go, at length about the ahadith, the teachings of Aimma alayhimus salam, the other teachings of the scholars that we have in terms of what it means to actually care for the elderly. It is, of course, a duty. To immediately care for your parents is your prime duty. To be able to care in concentric circles as you go on, the duty may translate into volunteering. But nonetheless, it is a communal duty that our elders, those who need our help at whatever age, are actually looked at. So that is a short answer to a very, very important question. And maybe another baraza event by somebody else could actually look at the idea, the Quranic injunction in terms of looking after the elderly and so on and so forth. I don't want this to make this into a mini majlis, because Nazmul had said I don't want a majlis. So I'm not going to go there at this point in time. However, having said that, there is much to be said both in our faith, in humanity, in terms of helping. The second question is, can you overdo volunteering? I think my wife would be a better person to answer this question than I would be.
That's
Because
why I asked.
Thank you, Nazmul. But yes, there is also a thing called self-compassion. That yes, volunteering is something that is going to give value to your life. But it cannot be at the expense of something, at the detriment of your own self-compassion, that you need to look after your own self. You need to give time for yourself, be it exercise, be it contemplation, be it family time, be it the duties that you have. But in addition to all that, volunteering is also important. But sure, it can become, and there are people who are serial volunteers. They will take up any volunteering opportunity that comes along, whether they're able to do it or not. And then ultimately what happens is, if they cannot do them all, they'll do some, they may not do others. But allow me to leave you with this one thought. When it comes to volunteering, and I've seen this in our community, and forgive me for saying this, it is voluntary to volunteer. It is voluntary to volunteer. Nobody is forcing you to volunteer. When you put yourself forward to volunteer, you do it out of the goodness of your heart, not because you have to do it. But you know something? Once you have volunteered, it is no longer voluntary. It now becomes mandatory, because that is the judgment and the measure of your character, that you have committed to do something, you have committed to be a volunteer, then do it, because now it's not voluntary anymore. I was too busy to do it, therefore I could not volunteer to something that I committed to. That's not on. It's like when you have a nazar, and you have this nazar to say, Ya Allah, help me with this predicament in my life, and I will perform two rakats of prayers. Until such time as you not made that nazar, that prayer was not wajib upon you. But now that you made nazar, Sharia tells us that that particular 2 rakats of prayers now becomes wajib upon you. And therefore, once you have volunteered, then serving that thing becomes incumbent and obligatory on you to volunteer. If you cannot do it, then please do not volunteer, because then you're letting the team down. So that's some word of caution when we talk about over volunteering. I hope that answers your question.
It certainly does. It's 3:06. We will bring this to an end. As always, lots of anecdotes and lots of wise words, certainly for something for everybody to think about. We can always do more without overdoing it. Right, just a reminder that next week will be our last meeting before we take time off for summer. We'll be back in September, October time. The recording the link will be sent to you. It will be on YouTube in a week or so under Baraza Toronto. Next week's presentation will be on nursing homes or long-term care in Canada, with emphasis on Ontario. And that should be worth attending. Most of us, I believe, in the audience, I can't see everybody, I don't recognize all the names, but we are seniors or getting there, and perhaps we might end up in long-term care facilities. We don't know. Also, the community in Toronto is considering building one. So there we go. We'll see you next week. Till then, take care, be safe. Khuda Hafiz. Thanks for joining.
That wish.